Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Pichana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Pichana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jaya. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariraj Acharya Satya Satashnadesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Thakur Premarupa. Glorious to the assembled devotees, glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, glorious to Shishi Guru and Gauranga, glorious to the Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Chayadiraye Nashta Prashishva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 10, Text 21. Continuing the discussion between King Rahuganath and Jadabharati. Drista Shrama Karmata Atmanovai Bartur Kantur Bhavatash Chanumanye Yata Sato Danayana Japavat Samula Ishto Vyavahara Margaha Drista Shrama Karmato Atmanovai Bartur Kantur Bhavataschanumanye Yata Sota Danayana Yat Abhavat Samula Ishto Vyavahara Margaha Trista Shrama Karmata Atmanovai Bartur Kantur Bhavatas Chanumanye Yata Sotana Nayana Dayabhavat Samula Ishto Vyavahara Margaha. Vaishnavis. Drishta Shrama Karmato Atmanovai Bratur Kantur Bhavataschanumanye Yata Sodanayana Bhavat Samula Ishto Vyavahara Margaha. Drishta Shrama Karmata Atmanovai Bartur Kantur Bhavataschanumanye Yata Sato Danayana Bhavat Rishtaha. It is experienced by everyone. Shramaha. Fatigue. Karmataha. From acting in some ways. Atmanaha. Of the soul. Vai. Indeed. Barduhu. Of one who is carrying the palanquin. Gantuhu. Of one who is moving. Bhavata. Of yourself. Cha. And. Anumanye. I guess like that. Yattaha. As much as. Asata. With something that is not an actual fact. Uda. Of water. Anayana adi. Of the beginning and of the bringing and other such tasks. Uda. Abhavat. From the absence. Samulaha. Based on evidence. Ishtaha. Respected. Vyavahara margaha. Phenomenon. Translation. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. You have said, I am not fatigued from labor. Although the soul is different from the body, there is fatigue because of bodily labor. And it appears to be the fatigue of the soul. When you are carrying the palanquin, there is certainly labor for the soul. This is my conjecture. You have also said that the external behavior exhibited between the master and the servant is not factual. But although the phenomenal world is not factual, the products of the phenomenal world can actually affect things. That is visible and experienced. As such, even though material activities are impermanent, they cannot be said to be untrue. Philosophisch, ja. Kann man vielleicht das Fenster ein bisschen aufmachen, um ein bisschen frische Luft zu haben, dass wir philosophisch uns vertiefen. So the main point here is, even though material activities are impermanent, they cannot be said to be untrue. And that's, because Mayavad philosophy says everything is illusion. And Vaishnava philosophy says everything is temporary. So it's temporary, and that's why it's not completely untrue. So that's the main topic. Purport. This is a discussion on impersonal Mayavad philosophy and the practical philosophy of Vaishnavas. The Mayavad philosophy explains this phenomenal world to be false, but Vaishnava philosophers do not agree. They know that the phenomenal world is a temporary manifestation, but it is not false. A dream that we see at night is certainly false, but a horrible dream certainly affects the person seeing it. The soul's fatigue is not factual, but as long as one is immersed in the illusory bodily concept, one is affected by such false dreams. When dreaming, it is not possible to avoid the actual facts, and a conditioned soul is forced to suffer due to his dream. A water pot is made of earth and is temporary. Actually, there is no water pot, there is simply earth. However, as long as the water pot can contain water, we can use it in that way. It cannot be said to be absolutely false. So, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A seemingly complex Sanskrit shloka from the Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada just puts it in the proper way so we understand it in an easy way. So we'll try to expand a little bit on this. Om Jnana Timirandasya Kiranjana Shalakaya Chakshurun militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namo Bistam Stapitam yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavind Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So I read the text again. You have said, I'm not fatigued from labor. Although the soul is different from the body, there is fatigue because of bodily labor, and it appears to be the fatigue of the soul. When you're carrying the palanquin, there is certainly labor for the soul. This is my conjecture. You have also said that the external behavior exhibited between the master and the servant is not factual, but although in a phenomenal world it is not factual, the products of the phenomenal world can actually affect things. That is visible and experienced. As such, even though material activities are impermanent, they cannot be said to be untrue. So basically here the king, it's just, there's like a fine-tuning of philosophy here. First, the king was very in a gross ignorance. I am the king, you're the servant, you should obey me. So then Jadabharat is kind of saying, what are you saying? You're not the king, I'm not the servant, I'm an eternal soul. I'm not fatigue, I'm not the body, I'm a soul. I'm not carrying the palanquin. So in this way, Jadabharat kind of cuts through the illusion of the king and establish that there is a higher reality. But now there's a fine-tuning. Okay, you're not the body, you're a soul, and you're not actually carrying the palanquin. But nevertheless, if someone identifies with the body, he will feel fatigue. Or yes, I'm not the king, and you're not just a servant, we are all spiritual souls. But nevertheless, I'm the king, and if I order you to be hanged or to be, to killed, then this can happen, Although it's only an identification, it's just an illusory role we play, still there is an effect, So we cannot say it's completely wrong. Basically, that's kind of the context of the discussion in a way. And the main point is that even though material activities are impermanent, they cannot be said to be untrue. And Prabhupada brings up the point, he gives two examples, and the most important is the one with the dream. And we will look at this at the end again. Because, yes, a dream it's just we can say it's just an illusion, like if you dream that a tiger is attacking you, and you're running away behind, the tiger behind you, you can hear the tiger's and you maybe even smell the tiger's, mouth, and then you see the teeth, and then you wake up and you realize, oh, I'm in the Bergstrasse in Zurich, and I'm laying in my bed, and there is no tiger. But then you realize, full of sweat, and you're trembling, you're full of anxiety. So yes, it is an illusion. It is not. There is no tiger in your room. It's very unlikely that ever a tiger appears in your room, right? Although we have a zoo, maybe some tiger can escape close by. But yeah, nevertheless, it's very unlikely that you have a tiger in your bed. But although it is an illusion, or just like an illusion, it's not completely illusion because you're affected by it. In a way, like you really experienced anxiety. So, and Prabhupada gives the other example of a water pot. You can say the water pot. Actually there is no water pot. Actually, it is just earth, and it's just different transformation, different energy. But as long as the water pot is there, and you can fill water inside, and the pot holds that water, you can use it as a pot. You don't have to say it's just earth. It's like Nimai, as a small boy. There is this story. when Mother Sachi is preparing very nice sandesh, but Nima is sitting in behind the house where there's a pile of earth and garbage. You know, people have these earthen, in India they have these earthen pots and they throw it behind the house and then it just becomes earth again. So Nima is sitting there and eating dirt, you know. And then when Sachi comes, what are you doing? You know, I'm cooking nice dishes and you're eating earth. And then Nima starts to speak Mayavad philosophy. Like he says, it's like, but mother, you know, your sandesh that you prepared, your preparations, and this earth actually is the same. It's just a transformation of different energy, you know, like now it's earth, and then, but then, you know, like, yeah, it's just transformation. It's all the same, you know. And then Sachi Mata is, why are you speaking such nonsense philosophy? If you eat earth, I mean, and it's interesting from an absolute point of view. You can say it's in a way true, you know, like there is earth, and from the earth, grass is growing, and then the cow eats the grass, and the cow turns the grass into milk, and the milk is, you know, from the milk the sandesh is produced, you know, and it's just material elements, water, earth, and fire, and so on. So you can say that the earth and the sandesh in a way is same, you know. It's just a transformation of energy. But then Sachi Mata says, but there is a difference, because if you eat earth all the time, you become sick. But if you eat the sandesh, you get nourished. So there is a practical, that's why Prabhupada says, this is a discussion on impersonal Mayavad philosophy and the practical philosophy of Vaishnavas. Okay, you may say that everything is one, but there is some practicality here. You know, if you just eat earth, you become sick. If you eat sandesh, you become healthy. It's nice, nourishing. And with that, everything is said. Any questions? I mean, we'll have a little short class, but let's look a little bit at some of the Mayavad. Let's look at the Mayavad claim or the Mayavad statements, and then how Prabhupada is defeating it, or the general, our whole Sampradaya is defeating these statements. Of course, we know Mayavad philosophy is rooted in Advaita Vedanta, which is very popular. If in the West people speak of Hinduism, and if there is any gurus or any Baba who gives any teachings, it's usually always Advaita, mostly Advaita Vedanta. So the absolute truth is ultimately formless, nirakara, there is no quality, impersonal, nirvishesha, and without any second, advitya. No? And ultimately the soul, the jiva, is non-different from Brahman. No? That's only needs to be understood. And of course we have a theistic understanding which is strongly against such an idea. So Mayavad claims Brahman is the only reality, the world is an illusion. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya, right? This is found in the Upanishad and is widely quoted in the Advaita tradition. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya. Brahman is and when we say Brahman, it's the spiritual reality, spiritual reality, we can say. And Jagan refers, and that's Satyam, that Brahman is the only truth, and Jagan means the world, it's Mitya, it's false. But yeah, that's what we discussed. This is under discussion in today's shloka. The world is not false, but it's temporary. Real means it exists and serves as a purpose in the Lord's divine plan. So the material world is not false, it is temporary, and because it's temporary doesn't mean that it's completely illusion. Actually, it is real in a way, and it also serves a purpose in Krishna's plan. There is a reason why the material world exists, and there is a plan behind it. And then Prabhupada would quote Janmadi Asayata, which is the beginning of the Vedanta Sutra, as well as the first shloka of the Bhagavatam, which explains that everything has its origin in the Absolute. Everything comes from the Absolute. So if this material world has its origin in God, if the material world is all made of energies of God, how can it be illusion? No, if it's divine, if it's the divine energy, how can you say it's not existing? And also, Maya Tyakshena Prakriti Shriyate Sacharacharam, that this material world is working under my supervision. I'm controlling this world. No? So in this way, Krishna emphasized that this world is Krishna's energy and therefore not false. But it's meant for rectification. It has a purport. And we may speak more about that later. Then of course, the Mayavadis, what other, can you think of any other Vedic aphorism the Mayavadis quote, very famous?
The wave and the sea. The wave and the sea, the snake and the snake.
Okay, yeah, the wave and the sea. I mean, that we will come to that basically Brahman is everything and the soul, mukti means the soul just enters into the drop, enters into the ocean and merges. That's one, yeah. I was thinking of another one. Tat tvam asi. I remember when I just started to get to know about Hinduism and I read some books and discovering after my period as a Buddhist, then I read Tat tvam asi, you are that. You are that. I thought, wow, this is very, very mystical. I am that. I am that Brahman. I am God. And of course, we are that in a sense that we are qualitatively one. We are divine. We are of divine nature. So the soul is qualitatively one with Brahman. Like Prabhupada gives the example, like if you have the ocean, and the ocean has a certain quality, like it's salty. So you take just one drop of that ocean, that one drop has exactly the same quality as the entire ocean. It's not that the one drop of water has a different quality, no, it's exactly the same. But quantitatively there is a difference. No? Small drop is very small, and the ocean is unlimitedly big. And of course, Prabhupada would quote, Mamaivam so jive loke jiva bhuta sanatana. The living entities are my eternal, fragmental parts. Krishna says that living entities are parts of me. They're individual. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. Krishna says in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. So there is like the identity is kind of eternal. Jivara Sarabhaya, Krishna Nityadas. We are eternally Krishna's servant. Then also Mayavadi claims that the Supreme has no form, nirakara, and any form is a product of Maya. That's another important point that, important, for them important, that nirakara, or what is another term, that basically the absolute, Nirguna, yes, thank you, very good. Nirguna. They say nirakar. Nirakar means no activity, nirguna means no quality. And there is many shlokas you find in the various Upanishads, like Isha Upanishad, Katha Upanishad. Many places it says there that the absolute, the transcendental, has no form, no quality. And then the Mayavadi, from these statements, they conclude that there is no form, no quality, so it's Brahman, it's all formless. But Prabhupada would use to explain, when it says nirgun, it means no material qualities. It's transcendental. That's why nirgun. Not that it has no qualities, no form, but no material form. It's completely transcendental. And then, as we said, Mayavad claimed that liberation means merging into the impersonal Brahman, Brahma Nirvanam. But yeah, that's with the example of the drop that actually merges again with the ocean. But of course, Prabhupada explained that this is just a low and incomplete form of liberation. It's not the absolute. And then also they say, should we close again? Okay. And then also they say devotional service is temporary and a lower step to reach impersonal Brahman. So bhakti is just a stepping stone. Okay, you do some bhakti to attain, to realize that you are God, right? So bhakti can be useful. So we also worship deities. But in our tradition we understand, bhakti is not only the path, but bhakti is also the goal. And bhakti is eternal, like that. So in this way there's many, and of course Prabhupada gives many analogies. A famous one, he says, if a green bird enters a green tree, it may seem like one with the tree, right? You don't see it anymore. But it doesn't means that the bird has become the tree. The bird is still there. The bird still maintains his individuality. But it looks like one. But it's so that's when the Lord says you should come to me, you should become one with me, then it means one in desire, one in a will. Your will may, and one through love. And there's many other analogies that Prabhupada gave, or other analogies that are there. Like one is, if a thief puts on the police uniform and says, "Now I'm the police officer," then first of all, it's not only it's not a fact, and it's also it's punishable. No. So similarly, if a conditioned soul claims, "I am God," it's not only foolish, but it's also offensive. And of course Prabhupada would give other examples. He would say, okay, if everything is one, then please open your wallet, this portemonnaie, and okay, you can give me your $100 there. Because that's all one, you, me, we are all one, and it's not actually yours, not mine. So it's not very practical. So there is difference. So in this way, Mayavada philosophy is defeated by the Vaishnava philosophy. And now today's point is that the world is not false, but the world is temporary. And I remember when I was quite new in the Krishna consciousness, I went to a summer retreat. I was in Dole that time in France, and I was sitting on somewhere in a garden with some devotee, and he was preaching to me. I was a new bhakta, long hair, beard, looked like a hippie. So he was preaching to me, and he said, everything is illusion. Everything is illusion. So that's why we only have to act in a way just spiritual, because everything is illusion, And I was like, wow, it's like Matrix. Have you seen the Matrix? The movie Matrix? I remember when I saw that movie, I was just on my spiritual journey. This was, 1999 or so. Matrix. I was sitting. We went there with like 10 friends, like whole group of not devotees, group of friends. We went to the cinema, and then we watched this movie. Went out, and after that, everyone was kind of talking about something else. We doing something, and I was like, I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe that Hollywood brings such a movie, and I like this is how it is. This is, everything is illusion. We have to realize everything is illusion. So, but there is a fine tuning to that. It's not just everything is illusion. Yeah, everything is illusion, but it's not that the world actually does not exist. It does exist. It is real. And the example is it's like a reflection. That's another example. If you have a mirror, and in a mirror something, or you have a pond of water and something is reflected there, it's not that the thing is not existing, but it's just a reflection of it, right? So this world is a reflection of the eternal world. And also there is a reason why this world exists, and it's made from Krishna's energies, and that's why it is also true. And again, Prabhupada gives the example of the dream. And actually, this example of the dream, it's quite interesting. There is one shloka in the Bhagavatam, the same shloka, exactly the same shloka, which is repeated about 5-6 times. There is 18,000 shlokas, and they're all different shlokas. But there is one shloka which is exactly in the same way repeated 5-6 times. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, we have Manmana Mavamaktu Madhyachi Mamnamashkuru. No? This shloka is also twice, 9:34, and then in the 18th chapter, 18:65. So there is this twice, but it's slightly different, but it's basically the same meaning. That Krishna encourages, Arjuna. One should always think of me, one should become my devotee, one should offer obeisances, one should worship me. These 4 things, that basically the essence of Gita is to surrender to Krishna, become his pure devotee. That's the main message of the Bhagavad Gita, and that's why it's emphasized twice as the essence, and it's given there in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita, in the 9th chapter, which is the most confidential knowledge. We just spoke about this in the Bhakti Shastri. Like, what is confidential knowledge? The fact that we are not these bodies, we are eternal spiritual soul, that's confidential knowledge. Why? Because most people don't know it, most people don't realize. It's confidential knowledge. But then more confidential is that we are actually not only, we are not the body and a soul, but we are actually eternal servant of Krishna, and that we are meant to serve Krishna. There is Bhakta, there is Bhakti, there is Bhagavan. There is a relationship between Bhakta and Bhagavan, and that relationship is through Bhakti. That's more confidential. But then the most confidential knowledge is what? Pure devotional service. That one should, give up everything else and completely surrender to Krishna and worshiping him in pure devotion with no selfish motivation, right? That's the most confidential knowledge. So that's why Krishna is emphasizing it twice in the Bhagavad Gita. But here in the Bhagavatam, there is 18,000 shloka, and there is one text which comes up again and again and again. And what is the text? This material world, the experience in this world is just like a dream. That shloka is emphasized several times. It's quite interesting. Arte hyavidyamane pi sangsmritirna nivartate dayato vishayan asya svapne nartagamo yata. That's the shloka. And this one is given in the 3rd canto, in the 4th canto, and then several times in the 11th canto. And it's exactly the same. And Prabhupada has translated it each time completely different. So it's hard to say, okay, which one should I read? Because literally every time Prabhupada slightly different or quite different translation. But of course in the essence it's always the same point. Let me read one translation from the 11th. I'll read this is a little longer translation. Although this is from 11:2:38. Oh, actually, no, this is slightly different. Let me see. This is 10:54:48. As a sleeping person perceives himself the objects of sense enjoyment and the fruits of his acts within the illusion of a dream, so one who is unintelligent undergoes material existence. Or I'll read another one. Actually, the living entity is transcendental to the material existence, but because of his mentality of lording it over material nature, his material existential condition does not cease, and just as a dream, he is affected by all sorts of disadvantages. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Shishikone Taiki Jai. This is from 11:28:13, and in the purport it says, this same verse and other very similar verses occur elsewhere in the Bhagavatam. 3rd canto, chapter 27, verse 4, 4th canto, chapter 29, verse 35 and 73, and 11th canto, chapter 22, verse 56. In fact, this verse completely explains the essence of illusion. It explains the essence of illusion. What is the essence of illusion? We consider something to be factual, which actually is just temporary. You know, it's just like a dream. But we think it's real. So in a dream, as we already mentioned, I mean, it works in both ways. You know, sometimes we have a dream and we wake up and we are relieved, right? And sometimes we have a dream and we wake up and we are disappointed. Yes? You know, I remember as a child, I sometimes had these nightmares, but then upon some point I realized, within a dream I realized, oh, I'm in a dream, this is not actual. And then with great effort, I knew I have to just focus and I can wake up from the dream. And when I woke up, I was sitting in my bed. So basically, in the dream I realized that this is a dream, and then by some endeavors I could by own endeavor could wake up from the nightmare. This happened several times. And it's interesting, you know. And in a way, that's what we are trying to do. You know? That's spiritual life. We are trying to wake up from the dream with effort. You know. So, and of course, if you dream that, you know, some witch or some ghost is hunting you, or as we said, a tiger, you really want to get up as soon as possible, because it's horrible to feel threatened and to have these experiences. But then sometimes we have a dream, you know, where we enjoy like anything, and then we hope the dream could go on forever. You know? And then we go, oh no, I was just about, and then now the dream is over. and then also, and the point here is that someone would say, yeah, well, it's just a dream, but the fact is we are affected by the dream. And I gave the example of the tiger attacking us, and we are waking up feeling like breathing heavily and having sweating and being in anxiety. But the other way also, sometimes, you know, like, I mean, men, they sometimes lose semen in the night. You know, you just have a dream, and you have some, you know, erotic dream, you dream about something, and then you lose semen. And it's kind of strange because the sense object is not there, you know, you're alone there. But it's still, you know, just in fantasy, in a dream, then there is a bodily effect. So this shows, although it's just an illusion, because we are identifying with it, there is a consequence. And similarly, this world, in a way, is just temporary, but because we are identifying with, there is a consequence. And that's why the solution is to not identify anymore, and you know, understand that this is just a play. And of course, in life, we identify with our roles. We think, I am this, I am that, and with this I and my, we play our roles, and this basically is a dream. It's an illusion. And Krishna consciousness means to wake up from that illusion and develop a true identity. And the true identity is that I'm an eternal soul, I'm a servant of Krishna, and I'm a servant of the Vaishnavas. And that's why we should always try to be fixed in that identity. I'm simply a servant of the Vaishnavas, and I'm nothing else. I mean, nothing else in a sense. I may have some other upadhis, other designations, but we shouldn't take them too serious. No. Yes, for the sake of service, we may take up different services, we take different roles. We have a certain position, we have a certain ashram, we have a certain gender, male, female. You know, we have certain status in society, brahmana, shudra, or just, you know, like pot washer or temple president. But these are all just roles that we play. And deep within ourselves, inside, we should always feel, actually I'm a servant of the Vaishnavas. And that will keep us sane, that will keep us in touch with reality, actually. Because that's what we are at the end of the day. We are simply a servant of the servant. And always remember that Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, developed love. And yeah, Prabhupada would give interesting statements about the material world, how it's temporary. Because the material world basically has two purposes, and with this we will end and close. The material world has two purposes. One is that for those who rebel against the Lord, they can try to enjoy in this world independent of the Lord. They can try to No, it's kind of prison house, we understand. And then it also gives a chance to understand our real constitutional position and to reform ourselves. That's basically the only two purposes for the material world. And Prabhupada says, the whole materialistic advancement of human civilization is like the decoration of a dead body. And sometimes you decorate a dead body just out of respect, or to have a lost, to see the person and remember the person. But actually the person can't really use the things, People put some items into the coffin. We sometimes go to these tours to the cremation. And one was that sometimes people put quite far out things, like once I was a musician, they put an electric guitar into the coffin. But the person can't play anymore. No, there is no playing. And the guitar will be burned together with the body. So that's decoration of the dead body. It doesn't really serve any purpose. There is no tune coming out of that guitar. And Prabhupada says, everyone is a dead body flapping only for a few days, and yet all the energy of human life is being wasted in the decoration of this dead body. So Prabhupada makes the point, actually, we are already dead bodies. The only reason why the body is still alive is that the soul is inside. Because the soul is inside, the body is still kind of moving. But if the soul goes out, the body is dead. So the body itself is actually already dead. And there is no really purpose in just trying to enjoy through the body. That's not the goal of life. The goal of life is to understand that we are not the body, and as a soul we want to establish our relationship with Krishna. Otherwise it's just Prabhupada says, every living entity is a spiritual spark, and by the kindness of the Lord, for the Father is kind to his Son, the evil beings are given a little freedom. Especially for those who want to be independent, Just as a father gives some playthings to the crying child to satisfy him, the whole material creation is made possible by the will of the Lord to allow the bewildered living entities to lord it over things as they desire, although under the control of the agent of the Lord. The living entities are exactly like small children playing in a material field under the control of the maidservant of the Lord. They accept the Maya, or the maidservant, as all in all, and thus wrongly conceive the Supreme Lord to be feminine, goddess Durga, something that they worship Durga because they think she's powerful. But the point is that they, Krishna just gives a playground so we can play. And Prabhupada says this is like our material activities are just like childish play. Children may play on a beach and the father will sit and watch this childish play. The construction of buildings with sand, the construction of walls and so many things. But finally the father will ask the children to come home. Then everything is destroyed. Persons who are too much addicted to the childish activities of economic development and sense gratification are sometimes especially favored by the Lord when he destroys their construction of these things. And Prabhupada also says, the cycle of birth and death is like a carousel. How you say that in English? You go up and down, you go up and down.
A giant wheel.
Child wheel or?
Giant wheel.
A giant wheel. You go up, sometimes you're going up, you see, oh nice, and you go down. You go up, oh nice, you're going down. Well, Prabhupada says also the material world, it's like a nonsensical state performance. You play your roles on the stage and the curtain closes, and again you play another role, and again you close. So that needs to be, one should become aware that what is this material world and how it is temporary. At the same time we understand it's not false, it is just temporary. But we should understand for what it is meant, and it's meant to reform ourselves and to go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna, yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the lecture.
Hare Krishna.
Still I have a question, and sometimes it says that we are never leaving the spiritual world. And
Oh Krishna. I mean, I'm not going into the origin of the soul. That's a whole huge discussion, which we don't have time for. 3 minutes. And how much is the soul actually affected? Well, in a way, the soul is always completely detached, and the soul is completely unaffected by anything. Because the soul, I mean, who is the soul? What is the soul? The soul is Satchidananda Vigraha. And as Krishna describes the quality and nature of the soul, it can never be touched, it can never be cut, burned by fire. It is always unaffected, untouched by anything material. But then there is consciousness. So wherever the soul turns or gives his attention to, then the consciousness of the consciousness is diverted towards matter or to material nature, and then the soul through the consciousness is identifying with matter and with the body, and then the soul becomes seemingly affected. And that's why the example of the dream. Are you affected or not affected? Even if the tiger, bites up your head and kills you in a dream, you're not affected, not at all. But because you identify with the dream, you wake up and you feel worried about it. So similarly, the soul is not actually, nothing happens to the soul. But as long as the consciousness is towards matter, then we experience it as it would be real. So Ajahn debate a bit about the tattva in a sense, yes and no. I mean, the soul is not affected, and the soul is affected, in a way, by the consciousness. And of course, there is something like, if finally you really wake up or in a spiritual world, then it's kind of, it's not that you're in the spiritual world, you have a spiritual body, but then you have some trauma in your psyche because you went through so much material experiences, like, oh my God, down there in the material world, I had such bad experiences. And you start to discuss with your Gopa friends. It's not like that, If you're in the spiritual world, it's kind of, there is no, it's not anymore a reality. Then it's waking up from a dream, oh, okay, it's over, finish. Like that. As if it never really happened. It's also described.
Because sometimes I'm wondering if there are some people who experience out-of-body experience or go to other person. These people in subtle bodies, they are awake actually, and the soul is actually much higher level. So is it actually always awake, acting in a way, and here?
I mean, there is a difference between body, like gross body, subtle body, and just because of the consciousness in a subtle body experiences something. It's not that the soul directly experiencing. It's the consciousness of the person who experiences through the subtle body. The soul, in a sense of the spiritual identity of the soul, it says in a slumber state, which is, in that sense, not active in a way. That's as much I can say, and time is up. Hare Krishna, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, Gi Jai, Shri Prabhupada, Gi Jai, Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Mahaprabhu has brought the medicine, no? The holy name is the medicine to wake up from the slumber of the Maya. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
что вы чувствуете, как бы, ваше сознание, оно находится в рамках вашего тела. Вы не можете ощущать точно так же мою, ну, если я к себе прикоснусь, вы не можете это ощущать. Ваше сознание, оно заковано в рамки вашего тела. Вот. Поэтому мы ограничены этим телом. И не может тело существовать без души. То есть это как основной источник этого. Дает 40 рублей. И мы не ну вот так это и было. Он создал всех вайшнавами, и кто-то выбрал отправиться в Мьянму,
Jai Shri Krishna.